Welcome to Fade the Public. This is your host, Leo Herrera, on a mission to spread the truth.
Let's work. Yo, it's go time, showtime, never backing down time. One shot, yo, make it count, yo.
What's up, everybody? I'm here with Joe Puentes. I had the honor to meet him through a mutual friend, and he's a very inspiring man, an entrepreneur, and somebody I'm really curious to talk about and learn a lot from. Joe, thanks for being on the show today.
My pleasure.
I appreciate it. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What are you doing now?
Well, I am a serial entrepreneur. All my life I've looked at different businesses, different business opportunities. I mean, literally since I was 12 years old. Always looking for an opportunity. And I've seen quite a few different kind of companies, from rebuilding cars to rehabbing homes to technology companies, finance, home services.
That's awesome. And you mentioned since you were 12 years old, what drove you to start making money and really be an entrepreneur at such a young age?
Gee, I don't know. I really wanted to sell everything that I could. I love money. I love to have money to buy candy, to buy toys, buy mini bikes, go-karts. So even before I started working, I think at 12, selling newspapers door to door, I was manufacturing, the little pads they call the steering wheel, where if you hit your head, because I would look at my parents. They were manufacturing the vinyl coverings that go on boats, and so I said, those little snaps look a whole lot like those snaps on the bike pads. And so I said, can you cut me a little piece like that? I said, now where do I get the little pad? Well, we were building a whole lot of homes in the neighborhood, so I found the pads that go on the air conditioning lines. So conveniently, I had the source for unlimited pads.
Yeah.
And so I cut it to the size, cut the material down to the size, applied the plugs, and I put it on my steering wheel. And so everybody was like, wow, that's nice. So I can sell you one. But even before that, I would fix and sell bikes to every single one of my friends in the neighborhood.
And was that one of the first things you did?
Yeah, I would say so. Well, I remember buying pencils in bulk, selling them in school. My sister used to work for McCrory's, which was like today's CVS. And so I had a lot of time in the aisles, and I would see that pencils were being sold at a price in school, and I could see I can buy them in bulk. And I literally said, she says, what do you want me to buy? Buy me that. And I would sell them the next day.
Wow, that's hilarious. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like you were just super hungry to get after it and start doing something. And that leads me to my next question, which is, what type of personality traits or mindset really helped you get to the success you've had so far?
I think being I don't know if I was taught, or I was just born with the desire to mimic what adults were doing. I remember, and I could have been more than 4 years old because I moved from Chicago when I was 4. I remember wanting to eat some food, having an electric can opener, and I loved playing with it. So I would put a can of green peas, which I loved. It would open the can. I put it in a bowl. I didn't know about the pot. I skipped the pot part. I put it in the bowl and I put it on top of the stove. I put it on high. And so I'm heating up these beans, and I'm waiting for them to get hot so I can eat them, put some butter on them. All of a sudden the plate goes whack.
Oh, no.
And my mom comes, hey, what happened? What are you doing? And so I still vividly remember that. And so, I remember picking up the phone because I wanted to go to 7-Eleven and have my dad buy me some candy. I couldn't have been more than 4 years old because this was in Chicago again. And so I'm calling to say, what time do you close? Because I think my dad might have told me, they close, it's too late, we'll go tomorrow. And what did I do? I picked up the phone, I called 7-Eleven. Maybe a lot of it was seeing my sister do things. My sister, when I was very young, 8 years old, here when we were living in Hialeah, South Florida, she would take me on bus rides, and she would go to a park several miles away, or she would even go all the way to the beach. She would take transfers. So one day my mom's like, where's your sister? I said, hold on, I'll go find out. I jump on a bus, go about 3 miles away, And I show up at the park, and I don't know if I found her, and I don't remember, but I do know I went looking for her, and I caught the bus back, and I made it safely home. That led to me taking all my friends to the beach. Hey, we can go to the beach. I just do what my sister did, but minus the sister. And I don't know. I just don't know how I was born that way, or if my just following my sister. I guess an older brother or sister is inspiring. My sister was an artist, or is an artist. She likes to paint. She's very, very good at decorating, and having that in my family, led me to, to see her do things.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, I'm an older brother in my family, and I always try to be, the example for my brother, and try to open the ways or open the gate for him to do things, I probably wouldn't have been able to, because that's why you have the older brother, and that's cool that you had that. So I want to shift into now kind of the education system. This is a topic we both talked about the first time we met, and it's a topic that's dear to both of our hearts. And I want to talk about kind of what do you think are the flaws from the education system today that you didn't learn from it, coming from a guy who dropped out of high school in 11th grade, but then you went back to school in college. What are the things that you wish you would have been taught in school that you weren't?
Well, in my case, I know that today's educational system is not working based on what I see taking place. The kids are not learning anything about nutrition, they're not learning about economy. Heck, doctors go to school and they don't learn about nutrition. But in my case, when I was in school, I was understimulated. So, because school, especially maybe public schools, they're designed for the average child. So if you're too slow or too fast, you're just not going to fit. If you're too slow, you can't keep up. If you're too fast, you're bored. My case was the latter. I was very bored. I was too smart for school, and it was frustrating. So finally, when I got to high school, I'm taking a COBOL class, mainframe computer, and meanwhile I have a PC back at home. And I'm like, really? The future is not that. And so, believe it or not, even with my IT background, I got an F in, I failed computers. And so, I was getting tired of what I was doing. I was already, I had already gone into business with a software company. I was programming software, selling custom software, and it just didn't make sense to continue school. I didn't see it, what it was doing for me at that time.
And how old were you at that time when you started that?
I was, I think I was 17, because I remember having to get special permission to get the GED before I was 18.
Wow.
And I was granted permission, only I didn't do it right away, because the same teacher who approved it wasn't available when I went, and I put it aside. Kept making money, growing up my business. But later on, I always regretted not staying in school. So I do have to say that school has a foundation that's very helpful. Had I been in a class, what do you call the advanced classes?
Oh, the AP classes?
Yeah, had there been AP classes that would have been able to stimulate me more, I could have stayed longer maybe in high school and not gotten so bored. Later in life, I always felt, you were supposed to go back to college. You were supposed to get your degree. I wanted to have a degree because no one in my family had a degree, maybe one cousin. But my immediate family didn't have a degree. And so I thought that was important. And I really beat myself up because I said, look at these doctors, look at these lawyers, those guys are cool, and I thought that I had to have a degree. And so I went back to school for a little bit when I first met my first wife, and she had a master's degree working on her PhD, and so I said, I gotta keep status here. I didn't even want her to know I wasn't in college. I joined college when we were dating. Only to find that I get to the class and the teachers are telling me, where do you learn all this? I mean, my marketing teacher was baffled by the ideas of what I was already implementing. So I quickly got bored, but I will tell you that the liberal arts opened up an appetite for me for art, for classical music. You know, I always knew that I wanted to have the finer things in life, and I always tied that to, you know, the classical music you hear in fancy places, or the operas, and I know, you know, those are intellectual people. And I didn't know anything about that, but having gone to a little bit of college, I was able to expose myself to it. You know, back then there was no YouTube videos, so you can learn about anything, which is fantastic. So I had to, learn that, through typical schooling. So, then, you know, that's basically my history.
Yeah.
School. And also, I dropped out. I had no choice. I dropped out because I was building a home, and soon my son would be born, and I knew that I needed to build a company. So I told my wife at the time, I told her, you stay in school, you get your PhD, you become a doctor, that's great, got my last name, doctor in the family, still got what I wanted, and I want to focus on building the company. And that's what I did.
That's awesome. And do you feel like when you dropped out of high school, like, did you lose that connection of, like, you know, because school gives us an environment to connect with other kids, make friends and all that. Did you feel like you lost that? Is that a part of you that regrets that side of things, or was that never really an issue?
It's definitely an issue, because at the age of 15, I bought my first Porsche. And I started to go to all schools besides mine. I was literally making rounds in different schools, picking up girls, having a good time, like Ferris Bueller. Literally, I can tell you stories.
What a baller.
And so I lost connection with a lot of my friends from high school because I dropped out. And once I dropped out, I was going to all these other schools because I was meeting, you know, friends here and there. So I lost connection to my original friends, which I knew since childhood.
Yeah.
Not all of them. There's a few of them, but I have other friends that have maintained the relationship with most of the friends because they went on to college and kept on there.
And you mentioned that you were on the other side of the spectrum where you felt like school was a little slow for you. What would be like some of the things that you wish would have been taught differently? Do you think it was the type of material or the way the material was taught?
Well, I would say there was the way the material was taught. I wasn't excited about science. I wasn't excited about history. I didn't see the value. I don't know that the teacher instilled that in me, the desire to learn. Maybe I was understimulated and didn't give it the value. There was no one to guide me. My parents are immigrants, didn't speak any English, so I came home, pretty much did my homework. I did have my sister. I don't remember asking her for too much help. Like my son, kind of like on autopilot. We just breezed through our homework. But there were subjects that I just wasn't interested in. I wasn't interested in science, wasn't interested in history. Now I'm very interested in both, but feel a big void.
Yeah.
So I would definitely tell, kids, to stay in school, go through high school, pay attention to everything, open your eyes, but always take everything with a grain of salt, because the educational system has been corrupted from what I've read, has been purposely, it's designed to create an obedient consumer, not really for you to excel in life. Mm-hmm. So much of the things I learned is because I learned for myself. Had I stuck too much in school, I might have been just another person just chasing the dollar.
Yeah.
And not exploring being an entrepreneur and owning your time and having no limit to the money you make.
Yeah. And one thing that I feel, that the school doesn't really teach us is not what we learn, but more like how we learn. Like learning how to learn. Like those kind of things is something that they don't really teach that. They just give you a book and they tell you, read it, summarize it, we'll have a test on Friday. But then it's like, okay, how do I do this? This is you're just figuring it out on the way. And I feel like a lot of the methods that we use aren't really useful to apply to any type of project that you're doing when you're out of college or when you're out of a school. It's almost like what I've noticed outside of college is that I need to learn how to like critical think in a different way almost. I gotta learn how to, you know, lure in, I guess, those positive thoughts so that I can, you know, arrange and compartmentalize each thing in my brain. Like that's like a skill that you need to learn, and I felt like I learned it outside of school, the hard way. But I mean, I don't know why this isn't something that we learn in school like automatically. Like, we should have a class on this rather than just going straight to the subjects. It's like, you know, each person is different. Everybody learns differently, like you said. So why aren't we, you know, addressing the fact that, you know, like schools should take into account each person's individual traits? And I also feel like another thing that we lack is that we only really test our intelligence on certain categories. I would say like 1 or 2 categories out of a good 10 categories. There's people that are smart in music, but not smart at all when it comes to economics or any of that. But it does not mean they're dumb. But the grading system makes it look like they are dumb. So that it not only, you know, hurts their self-esteem, but then it shows you, it's like, you know, they're trying to make you be a certain type of smart instead of you know, coming into this world with your own uniqueness and applying that. So considering where the world is right now, what type of people do you think the world needs now more than ever before?
Well, I think the leaders, the wisest people on the planet, need to realize this. It's right in our face. Everyone is questioning the educational system, the medical system, the medical industry, or even our governments are being questioned. But who's making the plan for change? You know, it's not all about making money. It's about helping humanity and helping us become better people. So if the obvious is there, I would like to see the leaders, the wisest people, the most influential people take part. Come on your podcast, you know, speak about their ideas, and then march towards, you know, finding a solution to the problems that are plaguing not just education, but many of the problems that we have. You know, there's world hunger.
Yeah, and many of I like thinking about it this way. We've created inner anarchies for outer monarchies. To me, that means we haven't controlled our inner self, and we want to control everybody else in the outside world. We're trying to create a monarchy. Monarchy means rulership. So, I mean, the shift we got to get to is from the love of power to the power of love, where it's like more of creating that inner monarchy, that inner rulership where you direct your thoughts and emotions and actions to the correct positive areas, to then create an outer anarchy where everybody's a leader. You acknowledge everybody's value. I feel like that's one thing we've lacked in business in general. A lot of businesses just, you know, they try to compete with each other for monetary reasons. And the new thing that really needs to start to emerge is this concept of collaboration, care for each one of us, and care for the whole as one, because it's so important for us to move in that direction in order to progress.
It is, and you know, people need to realize the changes that have taken place. One of my mentors, Ben Carson, he says it so well. You know, in his book, he says 100 years ago, a mountain man with a 3rd grade education was more rounded than today's college students. You know, what does that tell you? You see all the interviews with these college students, they're just the majority of them are lost. They're really, what are they studying exactly? Because many of them don't know. They're just like walking lemmings. And, you know, if these wise people are out there identifying and seeing that this is happening, how do we go back to that level of education and improve on it? I'll give you an example. I came across a company called Phenomenal Memory, which teaches you a way of memorizing. And it's not being taught in school. And it literally teaches you how to memorize an entire book, something like you see in the movies. And it's very possible if you train your mind to do that. You can look it up. Why don't they teach that in school? So I went through the course briefly, and I gave it to my son, who took more advantage of it than I did, because I gave it to him at a younger age, and he has a phenomenal memory. And there's just so much. There's so much that's not being taught in school. What's the purpose?
And they tell us to memorize certain things, but they don't tell us how to memorize.
There you go.
They don't tell us like how our brain actually functions. You know, what kind of things are good or bad for. And what piece of advice would you give to, you know, a kid that's in college right now and is contemplating, you know, leaving because, you know, they don't feel like they're in the right spot, and they know they want to get out of there and do something like better and do something worthwhile? What piece of advice would you give them to actually make that action?
Well, college is important, especially if you're getting a degree to be a doctor, a lawyer, those are licensed careers. You know, you have to stay in school, but if you are looking to be an entrepreneur, I would say to take courses. I mean, there's so much you can learn. There's a lot of theory taught in college and universities that you can't get unless you have experience. But there are courses that you know, people with real life experiences are explaining what they're doing, and you can literally mimic them. So I would say, you know, be informed.
Yeah, that's so true. That's one thing that's helped me a ton, where it's just like looking at people that have already lived, you know, their experiences and learning from their experiences, learning from their feedback and their advice. Because then you just like, you kind of cut time in half. It's like you don't have to learn from your experiences. It's better to learn from other people's experiences so that you don't have to go through the same things. And you know, what piece of advice would you give yourself now, knowing what you know now? What would you tell yourself 20 years ago, 10 years ago?
You know, I love my life. I had a great childhood. Life is not always easy. I've had numerous startups. I can't count them on all my fingers. It's been a joyful ride. I have a wonderful son, a wonderful fiancée. She has a wonderful son, and I'm happy in my life. I've made progress. I'm still fighting to learn more. But I will say, always remember those less fortunate. I think that's the most important thing, because that's the ultimate reward, is to find things you can do to help others. And I can't tell you how many businesses I failed in because I was always looking after the little guy instead of looking after the big guy where the money was at. Yeah. Do I have a regret? No. I'm still successful. I'm still going to continue to be successful, and the universe is going to open the doors for me to continue being successful as long as I have the right intentions for humanity.
Yeah. And what is success to you?
Success is to find solutions solutions to problems that plague our society. You know, I admire very much Elon Musk. You know, going to Mars, that's the next frontier. We got to get there. But why can't we all, like Elon and other influencers and other wise men, you know, really think about what does it mean to be wise? Because to me, to be wise is to have empathy for humanity. So why don't we come together and come up with solutions to the problems? We all know that there's no shortage of food if we just simply changed our palate and learned to eat, which would help us in turn be healthy. Yeah. 3/4 of the planet doesn't know what heart disease is. It's the Western diet that's killing us. And it's all for greed, telling us that it's healthy. And it's not. Many foods that we're eating are not healthy. Even the FDA passes them as healthy.
Yeah.
So, why not get together and find a solution? I mean, there's so many sharp individuals out there, many wise individuals.
There truly is. And what's next for you? What's next on the agenda for Joe Puentes? Talking about philanthropy, what do you have in mind?
Well, I have had numerous nonprofit organizations over the years, recycling computers for the Dominican Republic and for Haitian kids in school, supporting them done Intel clubhouses here locally. I helped introduce the internet to when the digital divide was taking place. I created free cafes around town. And most recently, I developed a company called Wiki Voice. And the idea is to create a platform where individuals can share ideas on how to help humanity in different ways, and then collaborate with the community, and then create projects to actually fulfill those ideas.
I love it. Guys, Joe Puentes, an entrepreneur with a massive vision to help humanity. I appreciate every one of you guys for staying until the end of this video. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a like, and follow me on Instagram at fadethepublic_pod. I'll see you in the next one.